All right, someone's getting ready for a big Azure interview. We've got a ton of Azure interview questions and answers
Oh,
here.
wow. Yeah.
And it looks like they're all from Azure-related.com,
Okay.
a site dedicated to Azure learning, so we're diving deep into real-world questions.
Awesome.
With expert insights to help you ace that Azure interview, we're going to extract the most valuable stuff from this prep guide.
Yeah.
So by the end, you'll not only know what to expect, but you'll have some tips to stand out from the crowd.
It's like having a cheat sheet,
Yeah.
but you've actually earned it.
Exactly. First impressions, I'm seeing a lot of questions covering everything from the basics to very specific Azure services.
Wow.
So where do we even start?
It's interesting. They always seem to start with Azure fundamentals.
Yeah,
It's like building a house. You need that solid foundation
Okay.
before you start adding all the bells and whistles.
makes sense. And speaking of foundations, I see questions about scalability, elasticity, regions, and availability zones. Those seem pretty fundamental, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Think about it from a business perspective.
Yeah.
They want to know you understand why Azure is a powerful choice for them.
Okay.
Imagine you're a company
Right.
that experiences sudden spikes in traffic.
Oh.
Like maybe you launch a marketing campaign, your product goes viral. Azure's elasticity allows your infrastructure to just expand seamlessly, handle that increased demand.
No.
No crashes, no downtime, just happy customers.
I like it.
And let's not forget about those global distribution advantages.
Right.
Azure's network of data centers means you can deploy your applications closer to your users.
Oh.
Wherever they are in the world, faster loading times, better user experience.
That's a great way to put it. So it's not just about knowing the definitions, it's
Why?
understanding the why
Exactly.
behind those core concepts.
But a bigger picture.
And how they benefit real businesses.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I noticed are the questions about different cloud service models.
Yes.
IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS.
Okay.
Classic.
Do interviewers really dive deep into these, or is it enough to just know what the acronyms stand for?
Knowing the acronyms is definitely a good start, but it's crucial to understand the differences.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the benefits of each model.
Right.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Okay.
Let's say you're building a web application. With IaaS, you're essentially renting the infrastructure.
Okay.
Virtual machines, storage, networking. You have complete control over the operating system,
Right.
the applications you install.
Okay.
It's like building a house from the ground up.
From scratch. Yeah.
But if you want to focus on developing your application and less on managing the infrastructure, PaaS might be a better fit.
Makes sense.
Azure App Service, for example,
Yeah.
provides a platform where you just deploy your code and Azure handles everything else.
It's like moving into a furnished apartment.
Exactly.
You don't worry about leaky faucets.
You got it.
Okay. So understanding those cloud models and giving real-world examples.
Yeah. It shows you're not just reciting definitions. You actually understand how they apply.
Exactly.
Now, I also noticed that this guide mentions serverless computing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that becoming a bigger deal in Azure?
It is.
And should I be prepared to talk about that in an interview?
It's definitely a big deal. Serverless computing is about abstracting away infrastructure management.
Okay.
With Azure Functions, you can write small pieces of code
Yeah.
that are triggered by specific events.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about servers. Azure takes care of all that.
So it's kind of like ordering takeout.
Yeah.
Just tell them what you want.
You got it.
I love those analogies.
Thank you.
It makes these concepts so much easier to understand and remember.
Absolutely.
So if I have any experience with serverless,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not directly related to the role I'm interviewing for,
Yeah.
it's worth mentioning to show that I'm keeping up with the latest trends.
Absolutely. It shows you're passionate about learning new technologies, and
Yeah.
that's a valuable trait. So we've covered some of the essential Azure fundamentals,
Yeah,
but this is just the start of our deep dive.
absolutely.
What else jumps out at you from these questions?
Well, I'm seeing a lot about Azure DevOps and security, and to be honest, it's a little intimidating.
I bet.
There's so much there, pipelines, repos, Azure Active Directory, Key Vault, like the list goes on.
Mhm.
Is that something interviewers expect all Azure pros to know,
Right.
regardless of their role?
Right, good question.
Or is this for hardcore DevOps gurus?
DevOps is definitely a hot topic in Azure, and it's becoming increasingly important across the entire landscape. It's no longer just for dedicated DevOps teams. Interviewers want people who understand those principles of DevOps
Okay.
and can apply them to their work.
So it's a way of thinking
Yeah.
and working.
It's a culture shift.
Okay, that makes sense. It still feels like a huge topic, though.
Oh, yeah.
For someone prepping for an interview, what are the key takeaways from the DevOps questions?
You want to be able to explain the core components of Azure DevOps. Like Azure Pipelines, for example, is essential for CI/CD,
Okay.
continuous integration and continuous delivery,
Right.
which means you're constantly integrating your code changes and automatically testing and deploying them.
Okay.
Imagine you're working on a software project with a team of developers.
Right.
CI/CD ensures everyone's code works together seamlessly. New features can be released quickly and reliably.
So it's like a super efficient assembly line for software development.
Yes.
Keeps everything running smoothly from code to deployment.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, and then there's Azure Repos,
Yes.
which is all about version control.
It's like a time machine for your code.
Okay.
Allows you to track those changes, revert to previous versions if you need to
Yeah.
collaborate with
Yeah,
others
got it.
without stepping on each other's toes.
So Azure Pipelines for CI/CD,
Yes.
Azure Repos for version control. Those are the essentials. Anything else that you think that someone could mention to really stand out in an interview when it comes to DevOps?
Absolutely. You can get bonus points by showing your flexibility and comfort working across different environments.
Okay.
You can mention connecting to Azure DevOps projects
Right.
using different methods like Visual Studio or Eclipse.
Oh, so it shows you're not limited to just one specific tool.
Exactly.
You can adapt to different workflows.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great tip. Now, we can't talk about Azure without addressing security.
Right.
It seems like this document emphasizes Azure Active Directory,
Yeah.
Azure Key Vault, and Azure Sentinel.
Right.
Are those the big three of Azure security that I need to know about?
You're definitely key players. Security is paramount in the cloud,
Right.
just like it is in any other IT environment. It's like building a fortress to protect your valuable assets. Azure Active Directory, or Azure AD, it controls who has access to what resources. Make sure only authorized users can get in.
Okay.
Then you have Azure Key Vault,
Right.
which is like your digital vault,
Okay.
where you store your sensitive information, passwords, encryption keys, certificates. Think of it like a bank vault for your digital crown jewels.
Okay.
And then there's Azure Sentinel, which is like your security guard, constantly monitoring your environment for any suspicious activity. It analyzes logs, detects threats, helps you respond to incidents.
Wow. Okay. So Azure AD is the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Key Vault is the vault.
Mm-hmm.
And Sentinel is the security guard.
You got it.
That's a great way to remember it. I'm also seeing a question about guest users in Azure AD.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
That's a great question because it shows you're thinking beyond internal users.
Yeah.
You're considering the bigger picture of collaboration. Guest users are essentially external users, partners, clients, or contractors who you want to give access to specific resources within your Azure environment.
Oh, I see.
Imagine you're working on a project with a team from another company. You need to give them access to certain files or applications, but you don't want to give them the keys to the entire kingdom.
Yeah.
Guest users allow you to do just that. Grant limited access to external parties while maintaining security.
So it's like having a guest room in your house. You can give them a comfortable place to stay.
Exactly.
But they don't have access to all your personal stuff.
Exactly.
Or the entire house.
Yes.
Okay, that's a great way to collaborate securely.
It is.
All right, we've covered Azure fundamentals, dived into DevOps, explored the essentials of security. I feel like we've already done so much.
I know, right?
What's next on the agenda?
Well, it seems we're about to enter the world of data services and analytics. There's a whole section dedicated to Azure's data offerings.
All right, let's take a break here, and we'll come back to that data-driven world in part 2 of our Azure Deep Dive. You're doing great so far. Keep those questions coming, and we'll be right back to help you conquer those Azure interview challenges.
Welcome back to our Azure Interview Deep Dive. Before the break, we tackled Azure fundamentals, DevOps, and security. Now get ready to enter the data-driven universe of Azure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing a whole bunch of questions about data factory, data lake analytics,
Right?
even a comparison of Azure Monitor and application insights. Seems like data is a pretty big deal in Azure.
Absolutely. Data is at the heart of so many applications and solutions these days. It's like the fuel that powers the modern digital world. And Azure offers a ton of services for managing, analyzing, and extracting valuable insights from that data.
So it's not just about storing data. It's about making that data work for you.
Exactly. Azure lets you turn raw data into actionable intelligence.
Which can lead to better business decisions improve customer experiences, and even create new products and services.
I'm starting to see why this section is so packed with interview questions.
Yeah.
One that stood out to me was about choosing between Logic Apps and Azure Functions.
Yeah.
When would you use one over the other?
That's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people struggle with. It's not about one being better.
Right.
It's about picking the right tool for the job.
Oh.
Think about it this way.
Hmm.
If you need to orchestrate a complex business process
Mm.
that involves many steps and different systems, maybe pulling data from a database, processing it, sending an email, updating a CRM system,
Yeah.
Logic Apps would be your go-to. It's visually driven, easy to use,
Okay.
has tons of connectors to integrate with different services.
So Logic Apps is kind of like the conductor of an orchestra,
Yes.
bringing all the different instruments together to
Yes.
create this symphony of data.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about connecting those dots and automating those complex workflows. Now, imagine you need to react to a specific event
Okay.
and perform a quick action. Maybe a file gets uploaded to storage and you need to process it
Hmm.
or resize an image.
Yeah.
That's when Azure Functions shine. They're lightweight, event-driven, perfect for quick tasks. Think of them as the nimble ninjas of the serverless world.
I love that. Logic Apps are the conductors.
Yes.
Azure Functions are the ninjas.
You got it.
Okay. Now, another question that caught my eye was about handling exceptions and errors in Azure Functions.
Sure.
Any tips on answering that effectively?
When it comes to exception handling, you want to show you're proactive, you have a plan.
Right.
A great approach is to emphasize monitoring and logging.
Okay.
Application Insights is key here.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you deep insights into the performance and behavior of your Azure functions, so you can track errors, analyze logs, diagnose problems quickly. You can even mention setting up alerts, so you're notified right away if something goes wrong. You can fix it before it affects users.
So it's not just about writing code that works in perfect conditions. Right.
You need to anticipate problems.
Yeah.
Have a safety net in place to deal with errors.
Exactly.
It's like having a fire extinguisher, just in case.
Exactly. Being able to talk about monitoring, logging, and proactive troubleshooting, it shows you're a problem solver.
Okay, I'm adding problem solver to my Azure interview resume.
Good one.
Now, there's another question here that's really specific.
Okay.
It's about migrating data from on-premise to Azure for data science purposes.
Yeah.
What's the ideal storage solution there?
That's a pretty common scenario as more companies move to cloud-based analytics.
Yeah.
And for data science, you want storage that's scalable, performant, optimized for big data. Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 fits that perfectly.
Okay.
It combines the scalability and cost-effectiveness of object storage with a hierarchical file system. So it's familiar to data scientists.
So it's like having a giant data lake
Yeah.
where you can store everything,
Right.
but it's organized in a way that makes it easy to find and analyze specific data. It's exactly. It's about having the right tools for the job. Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is designed for those massive data sets. Plus, it's tightly integrated with other services like Data Factory for ingestion and transformation, and Databricks for exploration and machine learning.
It sounds like Data Lake Storage Gen 2 is like the foundation of a powerful analytics platform in Azure.
It is.
And knowing the right storage solutions for different situations is clearly a valuable thing to know in an Azure interview.
It shows you're thinking strategically about data management.
Okay. So far, we've focused on the technical side of data services.
Right.
But this guide also hints at the mindset you need going into an interview.
It's not just about what you know.
Yeah.
It's about how you think and how you communicate.
So based on these questions, what are some of the unwritten rules
Right.
of Azure interviews?
First, show your enthusiasm.
Okay.
It's not just about facts and figures. It's about conveying your passion for Azure. Share your personal experiences. Talk about cool use cases or highlight projects you've worked on.
I love that. Passion is contagious. It sparks a great conversation.
Absolutely.
So be enthusiastic, share your experiences, and let that passion shine. What else can I do to impress them?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. It shows you're curious, engaged, eager to learn. Instead of just answering questions, ask thoughtful ones about the company's use of Azure, the challenges they face, the projects they're working on.
That's a great tip. Asking questions shows you're genuinely interested in the company and how you can contribute.
Exactly.
All right, we've covered so much ground today. Azure fundamentals, service models, DevOps, security, data services, even the right mindset.
We have.
It's been an incredible journey. But before we wrap up, anything else in this stack of questions that might surprise our listener? Something that could give them an edge?
There's one question that goes deep into cost optimization in Azure Functions.
Yeah.
It's not something everyone expects,
Okay.
but it shows real expertise.
Cost optimization. That's a hot topic these days.
It is.
Let's dive into that in part 3 of our Azure interview deep dive. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to unlock the secrets of cost-effective serverless computing.
Welcome back to the final part of our Azure interview deep dive.
Okay.
We've come a long way from those Azure fundamentals to DevOps, security, and for the interview.
Right.
But before we send you off, we have one last nugget of wisdom to share.
Okay.
It's all about cost optimization in Azure Functions.
Oh, interesting.
Might not be on everyone's radar,
Right.
but can make you stand out.
True.
So how do you keep those Azure functions running smoothly without breaking the bank? What insights should I be ready to share?
The cost of Azure Functions, it's mainly driven by two things.
Okay.
Memory used and execution time. Think of it like this.
Yeah.
If your function is a car,
Okay.
memory's the engine size.
Right.
And execution time is like distance traveled. Okay, got it.
Bigger engine might be needed for certain tasks.
Right.
But it burns more fuel.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that.
Same with a longer trip. Costs more than a short one.
Okay, so memory and execution time, those are the two things to adjust.
Exactly.
Got it. How do I actually do that?
Well, start with memory.
Okay.
Azure Functions offers different plans
Right.
with different memory.
Yeah.
Choosing the right one is key.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a simple function, doesn't need much memory,
Right.
don't pay for a huge plan, like why get an SUV
Right.
when you just need a small car?
Right. What about execution time? How can I make those functions run faster?
Well, first, optimize your code.
Mm-hmm.
Make it lean and mean, cut out anything unnecessary, streamline it.
So declutter the code.
Exactly. And minimize external dependencies.
Okay.
Every time your function reaches out to a service or database,
Yeah.
it slows things down, like going back and forth to the grocery store.
Right.
If you can, bundle them or cache data locally.
So plan ahead, like meal prepping.
Exactly. Have everything ready.
Okay. Any other tips for optimizing that execution time?
Caching. If your function does the same calculations or gets the same data over and over,
Yeah.
cache those results.
Okay.
Like having a cheat sheet so you don't have to redo the work.
Right. I'm seeing a pattern here. It's all about efficiency.
Absolutely.
Optimize code, minimize dependencies, use caching.
Yes.
It's a recipe for cost-effective functions.
It is. And showing that in an interview, it shows you're not just building things.
Right.
You're thinking about performance and costs.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. Core concepts, service models, DevOps, security, data services, the mindset, and now even cost optimization.
Wow.
It's been an incredible journey.
It has.
And I feel like we've uncovered some real gems.
Definitely.
Now remember, confidence is key. This deep dive has given you the knowledge.
Yes.
Now go out there and showcase your passion.
Exactly.
Show them your expertise and your eagerness to learn. And don't forget those little details we talked about.
Right.
Like guest users in Azure AD. Explain the why behind those core concepts.
Yeah.
And impress them with your cost optimization strategies for those functions.
Yes, those little things will help you stand out.
All right, that's a wrap on our Azure interview prep deep dive. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring.
Yeah.
Remember, the world of Azure keeps evolving, so keep exploring,
Absolutely.
keep learning, and keep that passion for cloud computing burning bright.